Mass Effect 1 without upgrades of any kind was a test of patience and how much I could stomach failing in the same location over and over again. So let's try the same thing in Mass Effect 2! Once again, I can only use the class starting gear and first heavy weapon that is forced upon me. We'll be playing on Insanity difficulty. No leveling up for myself, companions, or upgrading our gear in any way, shape, or form. No ship upgrades. And although we'll be covering this more in detail later, the final rule is no loyalty missions. Meaning that last mission of the game is going to be an absolute blast. Place your bets now! So with that out of the way, let's see if you can beat Mass Effect 2 without any upgrades. The game opens up with a cinematic shot of an Elusive Man and an Australian glazing us up for our heroic deeds against Saren. What deeds, you may be asking? FemShep had a dream of what upgrades looked like, and it was glorious. That dream was so glorious, she also overthrew the council at the same time and put Keith David in charge. Fuck you, Udina! So to celebrate, I took the entire Normandy on vacation. But like trying to navigate the highway on your way to Disney during tourist season, we got blindsided by an unknown enemy wanting to take our exits. Apparently, Saren's defeat didn't go over well with the other hostile alien forces of the galaxy, which meant I was now public enemy number 1. But where's your ship blowing up may cause anyone else to panic. Our FemShep here is so deranged that rushing these things makes you miss out on the amazing scenery. Well, I'm gonna get to enjoy a lot more of that scenery as I'm now headed planet-side Helldiver style. To no one's surprise, the human body is not made for orbital re-entry, and so with the funding of all of America's debt, I was rebuilt. Faster, stronger, somehow even more good-looking than before. And to think this is what FemShep was supposed to look like! For my class, I chose soldiers since this game actually uses ammo counts this time around. Limiting myself on weapons just didn't make any sense. They also start with Adrenaline Rush and Disruptor rounds. However, the latter I won't use ever. So to fix that, for my one bonus power, I chose Barrier. Barrier may not be the most defensive ability, but I cannot count the amount of times this one odd choice saved me from a game over. With Shepard rebuilt, the run could officially begin. Waking up to see Miranda, who put all her upgrades into her forehead, I passed out from fright, only to reawaken and now have to come to grip with the controls. I say this because it is very clear someone at BioWare had been playing Gears of War at the time, because now we're playing a chest-high wall simulator. That's alright. At least I had one of the best weapons for the entire run at my disposal. The Predator Heavy Pistol. Between the raw damage, effectiveness against armor, and how fast it fired, this would carry me forever more. Same with this grenade launcher I found. Without this, I don't think the run would have been possible. We call this foreshadowing. See? This guy gets it! Meeting up with Jacob, we teamed up to learn about biotics and rescued Steve Blum disguised as an NPC named Wilson. It's no Mugen from Samurai Champloo, but it's nice to hear your voice, homie. But wait a minute! I don't remember this guy at all. Oh well, if they got Steve to voice him, he must be important. Huh, I stand corrected! He must have mentioned her forehead build one too many times. Since I had no choice, I tagged along with Miranda and Jacob back to their base and met with the Elusive Man, the puppet master of this game. He tried to hold over my head the fact that he brought me back to life, and said since colonies were being attacked and citizens were going missing, I needed to go check it out. And since he's telling me this through a hologram, it goes to show he knows exactly who he's dealing with. Alright, Mr. Elusive Man, send me in. Arriving at Freedom's Progress, we got to business and started dismantling any mech we came across. This had us bump into Tally of all people. Whoa! You're aiming guns at me? Big mistake.
Shepard?
I'm not taking any chances with Cerberus operatives.
Put those weapons down!
Tally, Zora, you served on my ship. You know what I do to people who threaten me.
Tally spoke about how one of her Quarians came here tripping on shrooms and needed to be tracked down before he hurt himself or someone else. So now I'm out here taking out rocket drones and watching Quarians fail to deal with a Ymir mech.
Heavy armor plating. Those Quarians never stood a chance.
I don't know how these guys were supposed to capture Vitor if they couldn't deal with one simple robot. I don't know what the problem is. Finding Vitor during his come down phase, it took a bit of convincing to get him to speak to us, but he did speak about seeker swarms and collector stealing colonists, while repeating that he knew way more than he was letting on, which means you're coming with me, pal. Piss off, Tally, I need this info.
The people at Cerberus won't hurt him, Tally. You have my word. But we need that information, and it's clear the Quarians don't want to share.
Damn it, Shepard! I trusted you!
Making it back to the Elusive Man, he explained that the Quarian didn't actually have any useful information, so they ejected him into space. But with the confirmation that the collectors were behind the kidnappings, I was now given free rein on how I wanted to proceed with the mission. Finally, with the ability to think for myself again, it was time to get the band back together. It's time to go to prison! However, even with all of the heinous shit FemShep had done by this point, she was still welcomed with open arms. The guards still tried to fleece my guns, but as always, this ended with a standoff. You claim to know who I am and still want to try this? I mean, Miranda's forehead may be big, but it's not gonna save you. With that misunderstanding behind us, I got a private showing of what happens when you jaywalk in this universe. This inmate has no idea how lucky he is. This guard's form is terrible. He's losing at least 34% of his maximum punishment output. Remind me to defund these guys when I get back to the Elusive Man. Heading further into the prison, I was instructed to head to the suspiciously large holding cell in the back of the room, only for Kirill to come over the intercom and say that I should have brought reinforcements because now I was the prisoner.
Drop your weapons and proceed into this open cell. You will not be harmed.
But for as confident as I was that this breakout was going to be a breeze, I should have gathered the Blue Suns here would throw everything they had at me. I have made a grave mistake. Except in defeat, I tried to reload before walking into hell, only to realize my last save was the entrance to the prison, with no way back to the Normandy. The trap had been sprung. My body had become target practice for the most accurate prison guards this side of the galaxy. You see, cover in this game isn't a suggestion like the first, but a mandatory requirement. Poke out for too long and those luscious lips I spent so long sculpting to perfection are flung across the room faster than it takes my companions to give up and power nap. But where this may deter any other main character and cause them to start their training arc, I had other plans and decided if the only way out was forward, then forward I had to go. Finally, getting some ground carving through the rest of the Blue Suns was just a matter of taking my time and repeating much of the strategies I had learned from Mass Effect 1. But in all honesty, most of those techniques only work on these Ymir robots. They get so easily stuck on terrain that instead of invoking fear, I get the same feeling from them as I do when I file my taxes. Meeting back up with Kirill, he claimed his impromptu prisoner slave trade was for the good of the galaxy, and then he flexed how much money he had made by showing off his fancy new shield generators. Except homie forgot one very important piece of detail. Only a brainlet shoots at the shield, and since these generators are just out in the open, I'm just gonna get rid of them first! Kirill here wanted to be a Benezia so bad, but without the Asari commandos and lack of bulletproof material, this room boiled down to removing the shields, removing the Blue Suns, and then swinging up the right side of the room to completely ignore the reinforcements to give Kirill a free serving of grenades, which are far more useful this time around, I might add. With the opposition looking more like squished ketchup packets than guards of any caliber, Jack found my ship before bumping into me. She may talk a tough game, but this despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage throwaway goth who oddly resembles Billy Corgan if he fell face first into tribal tattoos is actually a softie who just wants the Wi-Fi password. Welcome aboard! Now with my ship speakers playing Pain by 3 Days Grace on repeat, I headed off to Omega to kill my nerves for the upcoming mass execution that would inevitably occur. But just as I was starting to unwind, some unfortunate soul tried to off me. Damn, you think you know a guy. But this isn't some random NPC we're talking about here. This is Shepard, and since her death, she's learned to let bygones be bygones. Here, buddy, have a drink. Since the local bartender was on permanent smoko, I visited another only to learn that Shepard is actually just a lightweight. How did they get so many spinning light fixtures to not collide with each other? This isn't technology, this is witchcraft! Coming back down off whatever flavor of Henny I was drinking, I met with Aria, who honestly acted a lot bigger than she was.
I am Omega.
Look, I don't give a fuck about whatever you're selling, ma'am. I just need directions to one of the best Naruto openings ever and the info where to find the creator of caffeine. With directions sorted, I signed up for mercenary work, as this was a surefire way to meet with Archangel, or Bluebird in this case. Some kid came in toting a gun that looked like it would be more useful as a club, but who am I to judge how you get to Crumpin'? I play orcs, I know how it be. Hopping in a cab to get to the mission, I walked through some back alleys, hacking anything I could and even reconfiguring a Ymir mech. Since these pose no threat to me, I want to see how they take on enemies. Maybe this is just the joke unit of the game. Maybe they don't actually do anything at all. Speaking of jokes, look at this mechanic fixing up this future boss fight. Sure would be a shame if he were to get a shock.
You're working too hard.
Seeing Archangel absolutely body that greenhorn and most of the others vying to take him out, it only made sense to shoot my allies in the back so I could take the prize for myself. And what or who was that prize? Garrus? Aw man, now I feel ripped off. You and Rex were tied for who could take the most mid-combat naps in the first game. What good are you gonna do now? Garrus tried to plead that he wasn't the same and that the 2 years after my death had changed him. Sure, buddy, if you've changed, then why the hell am I now having to run around and hold out this position while more goons get sent our way? It's not all bad though, I guess. I did get to see that Ymir robot I reprogrammed absolutely melt the opposition. I guess these guys can't be scary when there isn't cover. But seeing how I'm now running and gunning down Krogan and Vorcha religiously to see off any ambushes while under a time constraint before Garrus headbutts too many bullets, consider me skeptical. Speaking of Krogan now, wow, the Genevieve is really doing a number on these Rivet boys. In the first game, one Krogan was enough to wipe my party, and here they just make for big dumb slow moving speed bumps. I don't think I've come across one enemy I legitimately fear at all this game. Ah, I stand corrected. Flamethrower enemies are the worst! With the shutters now closed, we made it back to Garrus just in the nick of time. A hit squad was closing in, but like most cutscenes in this game, I came in gun drawn and now the party could continue. Cleaning out the goons on the lower level were nothing, but the main baddie himself was about to get the most life or death ring around the rosy game they had ever seen. Because cover in this game is laughably broken. Long gone are the days where even the littlest of pinky toes would get your shield broken. Now, as long as I'm crouched, I am virtually untouchable. And since the AI is so fixated on me, they don't even notice the other two companions lighting them up as we go in circles. Truly a game of all-time contender here. But we're not done. Now I have Blue Suns coming in to try and recapture me again, only to give them the working end of my heavy pistol and show them how my crippling addiction to Jet and Fallout 4 is carried over into Mass Effect via Adrenaline Rush. However, when the ground forces can't take down the most unupgraded living dead girl this side of the galaxy, the only option left is to throw an entire jet at them. Garrus, why is it always you? Just be better, man! Thankfully, that guard I electrocuted a while ago came in clutch here because the plane only had half health, and a couple grenades really put the hurt on it. Now game taking out more Blue Sun trash as they attempted to break in, but with a master of Gun Fu as your opponent, you never stood a chance. That ship is as good as gone! Okay, now I just need to hit this last remaining guy and... Are you kidding me? I missed?! Fine, no more 6 sniper shots, this is personal now. Apparently this fight that only took about 2 minutes was too long for Garrus to stay focused, and now he tried to paint the floor with his insides. Still needs a bit of work in my opinion, like a fish could have done a better job. But now back on the Normandy, I was informed that Garrus had been a bit roughed up. Oh great! Now I have a disfigured and nap-prone companion? How much more can you continue to let me down, Garrus? Heading back to Omega, it was time to grab Morden. Sure, this means I have to run through a plague-ridden back alley slumfest with people begging for healing supplies, but I've lived in Florida, so I think I'll feel right at home. And frankly, much like the first game, as long as you take your time and make sure to give yourself plenty of room, enemies don't really stand a chance, especially when you have 2 baddies with you who can use biotics. Now, welcoming to the stage the fastest speaking Solarian in the West, Morden Solis. While his rambling needed interrupted, his recruitment mission was actually fairly straightforward. He complained that it stank like cat piss, and with the ventilation system turned off, the survivors of the plague would have to smell themselves for once. If I went and turned on the fans and removed the cats, he'd happily join me on my quest in murdering across the galaxy. Before heading out, Morden gave us a new pistol, which is against the rules to use. Thankfully, this game adds loadout checkpoints to fix this. While taking out scores of bipedal cats, I managed to find an assistant of Morden's. Except while he may have stepped out only for a quick break to huff in that fresh cat piss smell, now he was being held hostage from Batarians. And worse for them, they had run into Femshep.
Pull that trigger and you're breathing through a new hole in your head. Let him go and you walk away.
Oh god.
You got what you wanted, human. Are we free to go?
How do I know you won't shoot me in the back as soon as I turn around?
Continuing through hordes of blood-pack grunts and more Vorcha, I arrived at the ventilation system. And while my companions felt like taking naps, it never felt like I was ever in danger here. Between adrenaline rush and the sheer amount of ammo on the ground, dealing with the Vorcha boiled down to taking cover, lining up my shots, and then flipping some switches. I don't understand how this race hasn't been wiped off the planet yet if they don't pose that much of a threat. But Morden was thankful for removing the smell, and even with his assistant trying to snitch on me, he agreed to join my team and get out of this dump. Except we couldn't leave before going back and grabbing Zaid. Yeah, I could see why they didn't give me a renegade option here. Zaid does it himself. You could stay on my ship, but don't ever expect to join me on missions. I don't need you stealing my renegade actions. Still needing to fill out my roster of misfits, the next area to pile high with corpses was Coreless. And upon landing, we were immediately greeted by the Blue Suns. I swear this is my third run-in with these guys, and still they refuse to let me pass. How many more of your crew must I fall before you realize I'm not to be trifled with? Continuing to get my application footage for FaZe Clan circa 2009, I met with a tank-grown Krogan. I was allowed to venture deeper into the lab beneath the planet, but something felt off at the way I was being spoken to, almost like it was a trap of some sorts. But considering we're here in the year of 2024 and traps are everywhere, and that I was being spoken to from the Mass Effect version of a clone from Camino, I guess I need to stop reading between the lines. Aw, come on! Surviving that initial bombardment, I was now in a cave system with what felt like continual spawns. In Mass Effect 1, there are two locations right at the end of the game where unless you push up, Geth will continue to spawn, and these Krogan felt like no exception. And after about 8 of them, I just decided to leg it, only to be rewarded by even more Blue Suns members. I really need to talk to your boss. Why would they continue to throw you in harm's way like this? If the Krogan aren't able to kill me, what makes you think you can do anything? However, this also helps me illustrate something that was incredibly noticeable, and that was the fact that I could still take on enemies with little to no issue. In the first game, I would have been reduced to using a pea shooter by this point, but none of my weapons felt like they were losing impact at all. Hopefully this doesn't say the same the entire run, but in comparison to Mass Effect 1, if I were to just use the same strats I learned, this game was going to be far easier under these restrictions. For now. That's called foreshadowing. With more Blue Suns members dyed a shade of red, I arrived at Warlord Orkir. Homie was deep in thought as he was trying to finish off his masterpiece, a test tube baby. Since the genophage was eradicating their numbers, the Krogans had to resort to sea monkeys to buff up their ranks. But just as he was trying to pitch me an investment opportunity of a lifetime, the Blue Suns leader had broken into the lab and began corrupting the other Krogan babies. So now, faced with a potential recruitment, if I took out Jador, I would get the Warlord. Boss fight time. This boss fight is a doozy. See, besides the Blue Suns leader, I had to fight Krogan and a Yermak all at the same time. And while that may sound doable, the Krogan respawned every time I took one out. So on my first attempt, I got annihilated. But a plan popped into my head. What if instead of focusing the cannon fodder, I just killed the leader? It worked back on the prison ship, why not here? While running around the room and trying to take pot shots at Jador, I got a Krogan to chase me, but for some reason he stayed back and decided to channel accuracy that was even worse than mine. The Ymir mech also played dumb by just standing in front of test tubes and just gave up. It'd almost be a waste if I didn't capitalize on this. See ya, Jador, you won't be missed. Returning to Okir to uphold his end of the bargain, Homie decided he'd rather take his life in his own hands than wander with me if I was going to walk into more fights like that in the future. Well, alright, but I'm taking your baby! Getting back on board my ship, the Elusive Man called me right away to ask what the hell I was thinking. He fully expected the mass amount of bodies left in my wake, but stealing children? Where the hell do we draw the line? However, he then went on to say that he would let the whole incident slide if I went and saved a colony named Horizon. Caden was even there, and at the sound of continuing to spread terror across the galaxy, I set the course for greener pastures. See, Caden was trying to take my role as a colonist savior, except he's doing it wrong. He's only shooting the bugs. You gotta shoot the colonists too. God, don't you ever learn? This is why the collectors are able to do what they do. You basically handed yourselves over on a silver platter. Here, Caden, sit down, let me show you how to be a hero. Armed with the abilities of the Point Man from Fear, these overgrown bugs didn't stand a chance. Well, once I learned their weakness. These guys love to use barriers, and instead of using the tried and true pistol technique, we would need to soften them up with the assault rifle first, as it seems to be a jack of all trades against most armor types. But whereas I did die pretty early on, the rest of Horizon was smooth sailing. Although Husks gave me a flash of PTSD that I wasn't expecting. The Harbinger chilling in his fortress of doom saw the carnage I was unleashing and decided to come say hi, but whereas I was expecting an enemy that would send shivers down my spine, I instead got sweet nothings whispered in my ear and careless whispers playing in the background. Look man, my chastity belt is staying on. You can keep your freshly caught oysters and R&B mixtape to yourself. Pushing through overgrown beetles, I found a mechanic that talked about some defense towers I could recalibrate to help push back the Collector assault. But why do we need these? Did you not just see me take out everyone on the way here? Fine, for plot reasons, I'll reset it. How hard could that be? Alright, so between Husks and some bad placement, I did take a few tumbles. I also got introduced to a Scion, the aftermath of a Husk leaving an all-you-can-eat buffet, complete with weaponized ass blasts. But besides the Collectors looking more like Garrus during any kind of firefight whatsoever, this was pretty by the numbers. Man, these guys really need to up their game or else this is gonna be... Oh no. I should have seen this coming. A big empty space? Scions that could send shockwaves that staggered with Husks chasing after me, the fact that these hitboxes could nail both Florida and Australia in the same attack, and a mandatory kill room? The phrase "be careful what you wish for" could not have been more accurate here. Although this only took about 15 minutes, my deaths began to rack up at an exponential rate. If I got tagged by one Scion blast, it was a 99% chance that I was a goner. However, in my travels across gaming, I have learned that running in circles is one of the most optimal strategies to ever exist. If I kept moving, I could take down the Husks and miss the shockwaves from the Scions. Now I would need to take pot shots at them, but only in between their attacks or be at risk of losing all the progress and resetting the room. Alright game, I've learned my lesson. Just let me out of here. Finally! But I'm not out of the woods yet. After activating the defense towers, I now had to defend the location from more Collectors and their Husk posse. I'm gonna have to take this slow. Maybe a break is in order after those Scions. My nerves are shot at this point. Locking in on the next session, I died. Look man, it comes with the territory, but after posting up on this small raised platform, I learned that the Husks couldn't even get to me, meaning half the fight was taken out of commission, which means laying divine intervention via sniper rifle into the Collectors and sending them back to their Harbinger begging to be cuddled. So now with the Collectors taken out, surely that was it, right? Of course it wasn't! Why would it be over? Cue the Praetorian, an amalgamation of stopping everything that I've been using up to this point. Between the massive damage it dealt being able to one-shot through walls and the insane amount of health it had, this was a doozy. However, when Mass Effect introduces big enemies, we take advantage of their giant hitbox. I could draw attention and stay moving while my companions took shots at it. This would whittle it down and hopefully work on the barrier it would form every 25% of its health lost. But in the case they died, which was almost a given, I would need to hug walls and only run in between laser blasts. But distance was the major decider of this fight. Inside this room there was constant ammo respawning, so I didn't have to worry about running out. But again, if I was too close to a slam, no amount of cover would save me. So making use of public services, I ran around this bus, making sure to take my time and only shoot when I could afford to get hit back. Thankfully, Barrier was there to save me in case things got too bad, especially when I ran for ammo. Commence another professional game of Ring Around the Rosie, and now we had one dead Praetorian. Finally, Horizon was saved! But not everyone was happy to see me. Caden, who I just risked life and limb for, started to lecture me about being used by the enemy, to which I told him he wasn't allowed on my ship. Serves you right. Garrus is here and he can barely do anything right. I'm disappointed in you, Caden. Get out of my sight. Since Caden wanted to act like an ungrateful little bitch, I felt robbed by the lack of companions. I guess it's time to go wake up that baby I stole. I like your style! Welcome aboard the Normandy! Speaking of lack of companions, it was time to go recruit Tally. I wonder if she's still mad at me from before. Taking my newly acquired child and a socially awkward wizard, we got to experience firsthand what it felt like to be a ginger since our shields decided to burn in direct sunlight. However, the Geth who made a reappearance weren't affected the same. Bunch of cheaters. I would have figured tentacle enthusiasts would have been held to the same restrictions as us. Finding a radio on a dead Quarian, I was informed that Tally was the VIP of this mission. I mean, no duh, right? But the other Quarians would help in any way they could to make sure she made it out alive. Hell yeah! Free help for something I would have done myself anyway! Between Morden and Grunt, the Geth that stood in our way did little to stop us. More like rest stops to piss than sleeping for the night. But the Prime... Woo! The Prime was a different story. This motherfucker didn't care if I was in cover or not. He was coming for that ass! But whereas the Prime was still as terrifying as the previous title, the remaining Geth went down with the same tactics as everything else on this planet. Destroyers! How far you've fallen! Finding a communicator to speak with Tally, she informed me that she was surrounded by Geth. But Geth are nothing! I don't know how these NPCs keep ending up in unwinnable situations. Just shoot the damn things! But it was clear I hadn't learned from my last outburst, as the next room was a combination of my worst fears. A Geth Colossus, and tons of ads. Rieger here did his damnedest to help, but the sheer amount of Geth here are really giving us the works. Welcome to the next hour of hell, where Geth rifles still shoot at me in my sleep. The room in theory was very simple. Clear out the first couple of Geth to move up, and then head either right or left while dealing with even more Geth. If you survived this, then you could try to take on even more Geth and the Colossus at the back. Since I was practically waiting for my adrenaline rush to come back before shooting at enemies, getting overran was very easy. And even while making it past the second set of enemies, I'd usually be so low on health or cooldowns that I'd get taken out over and over again. With each death, my mental waned. Clearly I was doing something wrong, but what was it? Was it the amount of enemies? Bad placement? Just being dumb? I was throwing everything I had at these Geth and got to the point where I figured out the spawns. Not only that, but I learned Morden could one-shot flamethrower units with his fireball once their shield was done. So abandoning the left side of the room, we went right. This had far less enemies and far less shade, meaning while the combat was tight, we had less to deal with. This combined with the fact that the reinforcements were taken out as they came up the stairs, and not while they surrounded us, meaning we even got to the final big bad of the room. And to our surprise, they couldn't even hurt us, because BioWare didn't program them to look left or right. This final attempt took about 10 minutes of waiting for my turn and being overly careful. Getting here may have been a breeze, but damn, Geth still got hands, and I'll need to remember this from now on, especially if we're going to be heading into even harder sections. With the Colossus defeated, I arrived at Tally. Look, I went through mental gymnastics to get here. The least you could do is join me on my trip into further horrors that is space travel. Needing a breather, I took a trip to the Citadel and ordered an Asian mail-order bride through some advertisements, and then visited Keith David to make sure that the new council was being held to the standards I presented them with. Damn, Udina is still here? Where is my renegade option? Keith David, I demand you punch this man! Ah, yes, I feel better now. With 3 more spots left on my roster of misfits, it was time to visit Ilium, a city run by one of the worst architects I had ever run into, and to top it off, used my name for clout! Don't hug me, Liara! I know what you've done to get where you are now. Liara might be in a cozy office job while I'm out stacking bodies like Jenga blocks, but at least she knew to do the right thing and point me in the direction of far more capable companions. First up, Thane. This bipedal lizard was reacting to the highly recommended 2012 movie Judge Dredd. A high-value target that he was chasing sat at the top of a tower, and it didn't matter how many ops stood in his way. He was getting that paycheck. So when I arrived, I met with some friendly robots and came across the Solarian fallen on rough times. But if I didn't help out the Batarian back on Omega, what makes you think I'm gonna help this guy? I don't care how long this Paragon option stays on the screen, I am not pressing it. Now inside the tower, we got to tangoing with a new faction called Eclipse. But don't let the fancy paint job fool you, this is just the Blue Suns in disguise. But instead of this being a normal tussle, due to Kasumi and Tally, I got to have a little fun. Kasumi here quite literally has the ability to nothing personal people, and to top it off, as if that wasn't already cool enough, she took no damage while any of this happened. And Tally also brought some sauce to the cookout in the form of a combat drone. It didn't do much damage, but it caused such a distraction that enemies would often just turn their backs to us and make for easy kills. This is gonna be fun. Like, check out this mini boss fight! Between adrenaline rush boosting damage, the distraction from the combat drone, and Tally acting as cover, we were never in any sense of danger. Unlike this guy who wouldn't give me any details on why the person Thane was chasing was so important. I didn't even catch his name! Continuing on, I took out some angry blue lady, crossed a bridge that definitely wouldn't hold up to OSHA regulations even in the future, and then watched Thane get to work.
Stay put. When I'm finished dealing with this nuisance, you and I are going to...
Thane, I know you're cold-blooded and all, but you're gonna need a heater for those thighs if you're trying to recreate my tumble with Porter Gage. Speaking to him about joining my crew, he said that he wasn't long for this world, so why not die doing something good? Well, as long as you're light on your feet, things should work out nicely. With Thane squared away and rocking his best Deus Ex cosplay, I once again hit the city of Ilium to find Samara, a Justicar who wanted nothing more than to purge by biotic. Just the kind of woman I needed on my team. According to a local detective, Samara was investigating a crime scene, one that involved more Eclipse members. And for just one time, why can't I walk more than 5 steps without having to redecorate every interior I come across? Surely there's a quota you've hit somewhere! Well, it seems I'm not the only one into decorating.
Those were my best troops.
Tell me what I need to know, and I will be gone from here. Where did you send her?
You think I'd betray her? She would hurt me in ways you can't imagine.
The name of the ship. Your life hangs on the answer, Lieutenant.
You can kill me, but one of us will take you down, Justicar.
What was the name of the ship she left on?
Go to hell.
Find peace in the embrace of the goddess.
Please stomp on me next. I'm the main character. I have plot armor. I can take it! Abandoning my dignity on the floor I once laid on, Samara said she would only accompany me if I could track down a fugitive hiding out in the Eclipse base on Ilium. Say less, Blue Mommy. Your will is my command. Now questioning an uncooperative sentient bowling ball searching for his lost 10 pins, a little flash of that thing I'd kept on me got him right into giving me any info I required. Like a passkey to get into the Eclipse base. How thoughtful of you. But where one door opens, another gets filled with bullets. Except when you have Tally catching projectiles with her forehead and a reptile more concerned with how they look than doing damage, you end up shooting most of those bullets yourself. Ah, look! Now they've changed their tune! Continuing to drop Eclipse members that would force their entire organization into liquidation at this rate, I made it to a seemingly open area. Huh, I wonder what this could be. Right, here comes the rematch with the J.J. Abrams gunship lens flare combo, and without half its health missing this time. Besides the obvious shooting it as it goes overhead, now I have to deal with ads that know how to move, mainly in the form of these adorable Fenris doggies. Thankfully, Tally comes equipped with a combat drone that the dogs love to chase after, at least most of the time. This just meant that once the ads were sorted, it was time to fire everything I had and repeat the cycle. It sounds easy on paper, but considering those deaths before the fight, for some reason, my brain couldn't grasp the fact that I needed to move with the gunship in order to stay on my feet. But if you think this is the fugitive Samara was talking about, you would be grossly mistaken. Behold, a biotic god.
I am a biotic god. I think things, and they happen. Fear me, lesser creatures, for I am biotics made flesh.
Jesus personified by a hobbit donning a gimp suit fueled by the power of blue Gatorade, a true adversary. And with claims that my target was on the other side of this door, I would be a fool not to enlist such a powerful ally. You're totally getting canceled for that one, lady. You just killed Jesus. Besides that amazing intro to the fight, there wasn't much of any difference here than there was fighting regular enemies, since almost every fight with normal enemies went the same. This once deadly fugitive with the power to melt your brain via raspberry-flavored anthrax just took her fair share of bullets and joined her comrades on the floor. This allowed me to meet back up with Samara and watch her as she performed a bonding ritual. Hopefully this relationship is one where we can both lift each other up. I just hope your biotics are better than everyone else's. To take a breather from all of that excitement, I decided to visit the crashed Normandy to collect some dog tags. Not because this was a sentimental thing, but because I needed to progress the main plot. Why the hell would I want memorabilia of dead people whose names I didn't even know? This was purely for self-gain. Another way to pass the time is by doing some Firelance activities, because who doesn't want to fail at parkour while navigating a vehicle that rivals a devilfish in design, but isn't made of paper mache? With some Firelancing knocked out, there was still more to do before the next story mission, so since I was in the neighborhood, it was time to help Zed chase down his old business partner to let bygones be bygones. However, this is where we need to point out a slight issue. There's a reason the restrictions in the beginning call for no loyalty missions, and you'll see that these next missions actually cause a bit of a setback. There's nothing like redoing hard sections after all, but for now we'll help our homie out and address the situation when it comes to. Because it turns out Zed formed the Blue Suns ages ago with his friend named Vito. But Vito got a little power hungry, and now the only resolution to a coup gone wrong was charging through the front doors and blowing up everything in our path.
Zed Masani, you finally tracked me down. Vito. Don't be stupid, Zed. I have a whole company of bloodthirsty bastards behind me, ready to kill or be killed on my command. Actually, take your shot. Give my men a reason to put you down like the mad dog you are. Again. What was that? Gone nearsighted, old friend. Burn, you son of a bitch. You just signed your death warrant, Masani.
What are you doing?
Opening the gate.
God, you and I cannot be on the same missions together, Zed. Between you blowing up the entire base and me not rescuing anyone who works here, there's not going to be a galaxy left to save by the end of this. The Blue Suns did their typical get shot and die routine, and damn did they do a lot of it here, but eventually we made it to this massive room with fire constantly moving through the arena. Now that's cool and all, But what is it just being trapped in a room with a Ymir mech? Why do you even have this? So not wanting to relive that death, this death, or another, I decided to just walk past the mech instead. Serves you right for putting a cutscene on this door. How many men have you lost to this transition? Oh, look! Vito! Better let Zaid handle this one.
Hey, please. You know it was nothing personal, just business, I swear. It was 20 years ago. Look at you. I did you a favor. Zaid, please! I'm gonna die here, man! Do something! Try, you son of a bitch.
Holy shit, I want to be like you when I grow up. With the plot advanced far enough, I was now given a new task by the Elusive Man. A collector ship had been disabled, and this would be the best chance to see exactly what the enemy had under the hood. Taking my favorite combo of socially awkward wizard and distraction drone, we boarded the ship. All was quiet, and it wasn't long before I found a terminal hooked up to a science experiment. It turns out the collectors were actually just corrupted Protheans, but before I could even begin to wrap my brain around skipping that info dump, I was now forced to choose a new type of training. Why? I'm not sure, but all it did was give me a new weapon, and since there was a loadout station literally 2 feet away, this meant that this choice was ultimately pointless and I could stay with my default weapons. Now, I didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time, but now it couldn't be more obvious. Why would a game ever give you a new weapon in an empty location? That's right! A section where that new gun would have come in quite handy is coming up soon. Boarding a magic Beyblade, we ascended into the sky, only for more Beyblades to appear and join ours. At this time, this section felt like forever. But apparently it was only like 30 minutes of pure hell. I just could not grasp the idea of Scions shooting at my party while having to deal with collectors and harbingers. And if I could somehow make it past the first 2 platforms and a Scion, the new platforms would arrive with my team nearly out of resources. So I got to experimenting since I was stuck here. Since you can only have 1 Harbinger at a time, what if I activated it on the first platform, but then ultimately ignored it and focused down the ads of the room? Between 2 platforms of collectors and 2 platforms of Scions, running forward and shooting grenades to open up the room would give me time to fall back to focus on the next incoming platform. Hopefully, if done correctly, I would have enough time to wear down the Harbinger and then focus on the Scions. But they also had a trick. As soon as you killed one, the remaining 2 platforms of the room would float in, and because of where they arrived, this puts you in the middle of collectors and the remaining Scion. So for this, if you manage to get both Scions low on health, you could drop one and give yourself enough time to then blitz down the second. No more Scions would spawn and you could use the remaining grenade shots to take out the rest of the room. But like most wacky things in this game, this also had to be done nearly perfectly, especially since the grenade launcher likes to miss more than it likes to hit its targets. I hated this room. And so far for this entire run, this puts us at 3 roadblock locations. But trust me, we have many more to go. With the Beyblade room sorted, I could now make my way into a— oh my god, another Praetorian fight? This time with ads? This room is actually a lot easier than it sounds. Thank you, Sam, for pointing this out, but as long as you take out the 2 initial husks, the 1 additional husk, and the 2 collectors, you can then just loot the Praetorian around the main area of the room, run in between its laser beam, and just take pot shots at it. It's more or less a rinse and repeat of Horizon. However, the rest of the mission is full of collectors that love to soak up your damage, and the Harbinger is twice as keen to see you this time. It felt like every other enemy was the main man himself. Look dude, like I told you on Horizon, my pants are staying on. With the final stretch being to make it back to the ship and me having no ammo, I did the courageous thing of leaving my companions to tempt the husk onslaught with their fleshy bits while I ran for safety. Hey, look, as long as I make it out alive in a cutscene, so do my companions, cause no one ever dies in a cutscene. With me back aboard the Normandy, the Elusive Man wasted no time calling me to congratulate me for only the first of 2 2-hour-long missions, with the second being the Reaper IFF. If I could retrieve one from a decommissioned Reaper, then I could use it to bypass the Omega-4 relay and take the fight to the collectors once and for all. meaning come hell or high water, I needed this device. Heading into uncertainty, I picked an accelerator and a hindrance, and after driving through a mixture of Cheeto dust and orange Fanta, I found myself in a lab of sorts where the IFF was last seen. Except while I was at first feeling lonely and needing a hug, Husks by the literal fuck ton jumped up at the opportunity to cuddle. How about we make use of those explosive barrels placed everywhere? So when it comes to Husks, how do we handle this? For one, stop shooting at their feet. 2, aim at their tummies. If it takes enough damage, the husk will just kind of explode and save you a bit of ammo, which you will need quite a bit of to survive here. And number 3, make sure you give yourself plenty of room to fall back, especially when the scions start to show up. In every single room, there's enough space to let the husk come to you and let the scions begin their million-mile journey. By the time you finish with the cannon fodder, you can take your time and deal with the scion accordingly, even if they do seem bored waiting on you to grant them their eternal sleep they desperately crave. Now, while these steps may work in normal circumstances, what if we were to spice things up? Like, I don't know, how about a smaller room? You better break out those train running skills you learned from watching your mom and start running in circles, because dealing with a scion and a bunch of idiots running around the place isn't going to do you any favors. Just make sure to pray to the almighty Sky Sniper for any extra luck it could throw your way. Once you make it past this one single room, you're rewarded to a bit more open space and more chances to get caught on the scenery, only to then run around the entire area with 2 scions at the same time. However, since this game decided that ammo growing on trees was too slow for the player, and opted for placing respawnable ammo canisters everywhere, you shouldn't have a problem dealing with some of the weaker enemies this game has to offer. I mean, it's not like this section took me over an hour or anything like that. But this was nothing in comparison to the end of the mission. Grabbing the IFF was going to take everything we just learned and ask us to perform this straight for 15 minutes without a single fuck up. Now comes the small room and a plot device, and now to spice things up, here's a shitload of husks! What do? Did you say let your companions die so you could funnel the ads? Perfect! Then we're on the same page! The husks in this room serve a very important purpose in the sense that the IFF behind you will only become available to damage once you take out enough of these moany boys. So grabbing our heavy pistol, it's time to lead these fools around the room. If you run circles around the room, the husks seem to avoid the stairway closest to the IFF, causing them to backpedal and take the long way around. This gives your adrenaline rush plenty of time to reload and for you to take out any husk brave enough to follow you. Continue this until the IFF opens, then shoot everything you have. The faster you take it down, the less time you're spent running husk trains. Just be prepared for the long haul, because if you die, you'll be sent back to the beginning, and sadly, there is no fast way to win this fight. Especially when your companions are dead set on making it to where you cannot navigate the room safely and therefore get stun locked by 12 husks at the same time. With the IFF finally taken out, make sure to grab the random Geth sniper on the floor, and for the love of God, do not hand it over to Cerberus when asked. I know the renegade option is tempting, but trust me, we'll need this for later. However, with the potential for this final mission weighing in the balance, the game officially goes into an invisible countdown, with 4 missions to be exact. And since my chat kept talking about the final mission and survivability of companions, I decided to put fate in their hands for a change. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a lottery. As I've been telling you guys, so I did some looking today because I was like, what all do we have to do? And we don't have to go straight to the end of the game. However, doing this mission, there is mandatorily 4 missions before the next thing pops. And so I thought that because we had already did Zaid, we would do some loyalty stuff, okay? I know, I'm so generous. But there's a catch. See, if we do loyalty missions and we only have 4, there are 12 companions, right? So Zaid is already spoken for, which means we have 11 left. So 7 of them will not get one. But I wanted you guys to pick. So instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to put up a couple different polls, and we are going to vote on who gets loyalty and who therefore lives. So, for example, our first one on the board is going to be Jack. Our second one is going to be Miranda. And our next option is going to be Jacob. So between these three people, I need you to tell me who lives. Look at the worst parts. Morally bankrupt hobby. So who gets a loyalty mission out of that group? It was Jack. Okay, cool. I'm gonna write that down. So Jack gets to live out of the first. You guys really don't like Miranda or them, do you? All right, who lives? Legion, Morden, or Grunt? You monster! I like two of these. I swear to all the gods, you better not give me one. Oh, this is beautiful. No, the boy is losing. So, who do we get out of this lot? Morden! Morden is going into that lot of people. No! I'm such gonna die! Alright, next up, because we fucking hate this. Alright, next up we get Stomp on Me Mommy, Samara. We get Kasumi. And we get Thane. Alright, and Blam, who lives? Come on, Blue Mommy. How's it rigged? What do you mean rigged? We haven't even gotten to the best one yet, because that's only 9 people. Alright, so...
Fucking hate this game.
Oh, it's not even the best one's coming up.
Who the fuck?
Ooh, that was... Hold on. Wait. That was actually a tie. That was a tie between Samara and Thane. We can't do both, so that means you guys have to go again. Oh, this looks pretty one-sided from the looks of things. Holy moly. Resenting our suffering. And Deadpool. Ooh, Samara. Very good, very good, very good. I was actually kind of hoping that Blue Mommy would win. I actually put her first on this piece of paper. All right, so. Chris, I hate you. Who lives between these two people? Don't you dare, I won't forgive you. Lady, grab a hammer. I can't agree on them all working. Stop using slurs. Alright, well, that's, let's end poll. And Garrus, 69%. Let's go. Let's go. With our companions' lives voted on, it was time to knock out some loyalty missions. And first up was the Blue Dummy Mommy herself, Samara. It turns out her daughter had taken the role of a serial killer in Omega, and since Samara couldn't get in close without spooking her, that meant I was to be used as bait to lure her out. So hitting the streets of Omega once again, I found one of Morinth's victims' apartments. This gave me some clues that Morinth was an edgelord lost to time and still trying to relive the good old days where everyone looked like they just walked off the set of The Matrix. So heading to the VIP lounge of the afterlife, she wouldn't be that hard to pin down, right?
Any mistake and Morinth will disappear. If you're the least bit unsure, come talk to me.
Hey, what are you looking at?
Wanna dance? Watch this.
No thanks. I'm happy with just me and the music.
Oh wow! Causing an absolute mess actually worked? God damn, I'm good at this. Now trying to speedrun out Attack the Woman tutorials in the background while talking to Morinth, I ended up just picking the most soul-crushing response that would have Morinth fighting against letting her inner Raven from Teen Titans out. Is this what actually talking to girls is like? Holy shit, I'm getting invited back to her place? Those tutorials didn't mention any about this. Mommy, help me!
Find peace in the embrace of the goddess. ready to leave this place and get on with my life. Are you ready to go as well?
Let's go.
So remember when I said that I had a 4-mission timer? Well, apparently that wasn't the case. Somehow I activated the mission way earlier than expected. And while I was away, the entire Normandy was attacked by the collectors who were taking the entire crew hostage. Meaning a man who played with toys for a living was now my only hope at survival. Which, did you know you can actually fail this mission? With Joker able to activate Edie, who managed to kick the collectors off the ship, this posed a dilemma. The Omega-4 relay was now available to use, but that was the final mission, and I just made chat go through a heart-wrenching lottery that I felt terrible about not fulfilling. Meaning the relay would just have to wait. I still had loyalty missions to do. But before we do that, let's make sure we actually wake Legion up first. Makes no sense that he gets to sleep in while the rest of us have to actually do something. Hopping back on the loyalty train, it was time to help Jack reach her full potential by traveling back to her childhood stomping grounds and rigging the place to blow sky high. You better be careful with those explosives, Jack. They'll come back to bite you if you're not too careful. I mean, just look at my face! Taking Legion out for a spin, we descended onto the compound only to be swarmed by Varen. Apparently the Blood Pack were looking for something here too! Of course they are! But rather than pull our resources and work together, our job involves search and destroy, regardless of how many bastards BioWare went into place here. Hey yo Jack, is this a friend of yours?
We can blow up the place, but that still leaves him. What do we do with another you?
That's easy.
Just leave me here. This is where I belong.
Fuck that.
He deserves it.
I decide how to deal with my past, not you.
I gave you an order.
Killing him isn't gonna—
Jack, if you can't, I will. If you're done here, let's plant the bomb and get out.
With ourselves now properly at the top of the galaxy's most wanted, Mornid needed some help in tracking down some Genophage's research left on Tuchanka, the Krogan homeworld. But if it fell into the wrong hands, it could be used as a selective disease to give certain Krogan clans more powers over the others. Look man, I'm only doing this because you may be able to help our friendly froggy boys. Get with it. Yo, my main dude Rex! How the hell did you end up in charge when you always sleep on missions? Krogan politics will never make any sense to me. However, meeting back up with Rex did have its perks, mainly in the form of getting us a lift to Morden's mission. So Morden, what kind of stuff can I expect here? That was just making it inside? There's more? Look, for a mission taking place on the Krogan homeworld, I never actually expected this many Krogan. And now they're out here gloating that they hold the key to conquering the galaxy. Look, man, if you're gonna act like greenskins, then Crumpin is the only way out of this.
You talk too much.
See? The human cannot hit a simple target.
Taking out the remainder of the room, we came to this room full of stairs, and honestly, this one room nearly drove me insane. Why are there so many frogs? With whatever the fuck that room was sorted, we found the data Morden was looking for and the student which was responsible for trying to weaponize it.
We're shutting your lab down, Malin.
Shutting down more than that.
You can't face the truth, can you? Can't admit that your brilliant mind led you to commit an atrocity!
Unacceptable experiments. Unacceptable goals. Won't change. No choice. Have to kill you. Apologies, Commander. Misunderstood mission parameters. No kidnapping. My mistake. Thank you.
With 3 out of the 4 loyalty missions completed, something caught my eye. Besides the loyalty circle under companions, a new ability had been unlocked. At first, I thought it was just the ability to level a new skill, but no. Mass Effect 2 goes one step beyond that by putting a point into it. And this is why no loyalty missions were added to the rules. Because any way you see it, this is a new ability and the option to use it right out of the gate. Meaning we had to do a bit of backpedaling to get back on track. Thankfully, we have other missions available for us. With anomaly missions being another way to progress the main story without resulting in a failed run, now I got to explore other planets without having to hear about my companions and how I needed to fix their flaws. And besides running through the Silent Hill remake and gunning down even more Blood Pack members, these didn't take too long, and as long as I just used the tried and true tactic of waiting for adrenaline rush and shooting the big scary health bar carrier, these took no time at all. Now I'm all caught up and watching Joker continue to hobble around while trying to do his best Chris Griffin impersonation. But now that we're all caught back up, let's get into the real meat of the run. The suicide mission. A mission where you potentially can lose literally every squad mate if you don't play your cards right. And with us not having any loyal companions, the game was rigged from the start. I gave my team the message of courage they needed.
I'll admit it, Shepard. I'm impressed. You got us here. Are you ready?
We're going in blind and we don't even know if we'll survive the trip. No way in hell we're ready.
And set a course for the Omega-4 relay. The Reaper IFF allowed us entry straight into a graveyard. If seeing a sea of destroyed ships doesn't set the tone with a dark sign beckoning you to lose all your souls, I don't know what does. However, do not sit and stare too much at the scenery. Killbots now chased after us, and they were determined to get the casualties started much sooner than anticipated.
EDI, take these bastards out!
With Jack finding out what explosions look like when they go off right next to your face, our ship was boarded by an Oculus. Grabbing Grunt and Morden, we fought back against the sci-fi version of Mike Wazowski, but surprisingly, this fight wasn't hard at all. While solely focusing on me, this gave my companions plenty of time to shoot back, and with it only getting to half health, it decided to leave. Huh, I figured at least something would die here. Ooh, yeah, spoke too soon on that one. Alright, round 2 with Mike, and much like the first scuffle, this one played out almost exactly the same, except now instead of moving around, the Oculus got stuck, moved halfway up the cargo hold, and then just repeated the loop. What is the point of this thing? A distraction?
They got Thane.
Lesson learned, do not bring up the obvious. Well, at least Thane will be permanently lighter on his feet from now on. Crashing into our destination, we needed a plan on how to infiltrate and accomplish our goal, which led to the Scooby-Doo tactic of splitting up and using the hot girl as bait. Who's the hot girl, you may ask? I shouldn't have to tell you, of course it's me! I would buy time for Tali to slide into the pipe system Mario style and get the main doors open, and Miranda would lead the second squad. Sounds easy, right? Well, no! Not even a bit! Taking Garrus and Grunt with me, we needed to take out the collectors in our way, but also open vents so Tali didn't suffocate to death. Because in the unfortunate case that I couldn't get to her in time, the entire mission failed. This may seem like a minor inconvenience, but this meant I was forced to keep moving, whereas my strategy most of the time was to thin out the enemy at my own pace. The Harbinger seemed to love this too, because it seemed like every time I had to turn a valve, this guy would purposely put himself right in the way, and if I killed him, he would just pop right back up and do it again. Guy, I am not turning your valve. Having to resort to using all my heavy ammo and getting rid of this glowing Rizzler, I managed to get a few checkpoints, putting me at the last 2 valves, and oh my god! This was like running to the microwave to stop the timer before it went off and woke up your sleeping child, but now I'm out here wincing through the pain of stepping on the sharpest materials known to mankind disguised as toys and getting yelled at because I woke up the child just in time for the microwave to go off. This no man's land is insane! Just give me the valve! Oh yes, running from my problems will always win the day. Hey Tally, make sure to close the door, will ya?
Fuck it! Here they come! Close the door! They're stuck! Pressing fire, cover them! Tally!
You were always the best at catching bullets with your face, weren't you? With Tally's sacrifice, we finally made it through the front door. But whereas we had already lost 4 party members, our ranks were now boosted when we came across the kidnapped Normandy crew. And while finding the crew may seem like a good thing, besides Dr. Chocolates, I can't remember a single one of your names! Why do I mention this, you may ask? Well, you see, the next phase of this main mission was to get a biotic to shield us from the Seeker swarms as we moved deeper into the base, for which I chose Samara. But since the Normandy crew needed escorting back to the ship, I would have to get someone to make sure they got there safely. As if! You think I'm gonna give up a companion to die off screen while I save all of you? Joker has proved that he can fly the ship himself. Good luck, homies! You're gonna need it. I need all the companions I can because they're dropping like flies out here. Once again, picking Miranda to lead the second squad due to her keeping everyone alive 2 seconds ago, I chose Jacob and Morden to join me on this long walk. Except, here we go on another combat section that forces me to adapt. See this biotic shield? Do you see how small it is? At certain parts, we had Samara stay still and allow us to deal with collectors that got close. However, when your cover is gone and the only thing you could do is play Ring Around the Rosie with a creature who wants nothing more than to seduce you, you're bound to take a couple stumbles, and trust me, I'm making this seem a lot easier than it is. But what wasn't was the second to last section of this mission. My God, I was trapped here for 45 minutes. We have husks that explode, and a fucking scion for some reason. And with nowhere to run and cover that the AI almost seemed to perfectly trap you on, and companions that can't walk forward, let alone help you, where do you even begin to start? Well, you'd probably start by trying to take out the husks, right? While that does make sense, you had better not take them out too fast, or else those precious grenade launcher rounds will only delay the inevitable. Or the Scion will get you, which is always a blast! And speaking of those grenade launcher rounds, don't shoot them too close to more than one enemy, or an enemy that is slightly moving, or else you will watch that precious heavy ammo fly off into nowhere. And don't even think about shooting at the floor, because this weapon apparently doesn't do splash damage unless it's to you and your companions. Well, where do you go, you may ask, as you realize you're getting swarmed? That's the fun part! You're looking at it! Because if you even think about stepping outside of this bubble, you're gonna find out what it feels like to be a frozen turkey being deep fried by someone who shouldn't be handling an open flame. You can try to loop the enemies on the raised section. You can try to focus down the Scion. You can try every trick at your disposal, but there's only one that works. Landing your shots and keeping the husks at bay, while somehow not killing them too fast so they don't respond. It sounds like a no-brainer, but if your companions survive that first wave, or amount, or whatever of husks, they'll pull so much aggro from the Scion you can run laps around it. And as long as you play it safe like a Dark Souls fight where sometimes it's better to heal than attack, this should only mildly drain your sanity and make you fearful of what comes next, because if you thought this was the hardest part of the mission, man, I have got something to show you in a bit. I mean, just listen to me. I sound completely sane, right? After watching us struggle so much while we were standing still, Samara decided to pick up the pace and force us to shoot while moving. Thankfully not for long, since my companions were more interested shooting at the small seekers than anything of use. Ayo, Jacob, you know this shield isn't that big, right? I wouldn't be standing out there if I was you.
No, fall back! Jacob!
What blows my mind is Shepard didn't even seem to care about this one. Finally, she sees the importance of shedding dead weights! Oh look, Miranda and her team made it unharmed. I swear, even without loyalty, she still gets the job done. But you know who doesn't? The Normandy crew. Not a single one made it back to the ship. That's okay though, I haven't bought anything in like 2 games. We have quite the budget when it comes to hiring new members. So now with the final push being left up to FemShep, grabbing Dami Mommy and the best arsonist this side of the galaxy, we left the rest of the companions to hold the door. But little did they know this ask would cost them dearly. Oh great! More Beyblade platforms! Welcome to the last 3 circles of hell. This room just required us to take out collectors that would show up on platforms only when we disposed of the previous occupants. Except this is the first room where ammo really became an issue. Since my guns did almost nothing at this point, I had to use virtually everything at my disposal, which just meant that the longer this room went on, the less I had to use. Speak of the devil, here they come now. These barriers were the major killer here. Why on earth does a collector take 3 sniper headshots to down? It also doesn't help that Samara is more interested in staring at the architecture than actually shooting anything. But what could make this room even better, you may ask? How about 2 Scions and 3 Husk Abominations that explode? Why, grenade launcher? Why is it that you now choose to fail me? I didn't want to use any metagel for this room because I had no idea what came next. And while Samara did get a few cheap kills with her throw launching people off the platform, this honestly boiled down to me just chipping away and praying the Harbingers were kind enough to spare some ammo for my troubles, to which most of the time they were not. Thankfully, on my next bout with the Scions, I managed to take out the Husks, and luckily this time I had enough ammo going into the fight thanks to the generosity of the Harbingers to actually pose a threat. Plus, since Scions have eyesight that make Ray Charles look like the poster child for 20/20 vision, walking back and forth keeps them stationary long enough to bring them down. Alright, so what comes next? More collectors? Lower ammo? A 2-phase boss fight? How about all 3? Welcoming to the stage, the hardest section of the run. Coming into this fight with no ammo, this fight played out much like the IFF. To progress, I'd have to take out the collectors in order for some glowing bits to appear on the Reaper, and since I didn't want to miss an opportunity to deal damage, I went right for the grenade launcher. Oh, this isn't so bad. What do you mean? How did I miss? Why must you insist on not hitting your targets, grenade launcher? Between letting Morden turn collectors into marshmallows at a cookout and my now fixed accuracy, surprisingly this phase of the fight only took 1 attempt. But notice how I said phase. Calling the homies to say I had won, I decided to drop a tribute to Jack in the way of rigging the whole place to explode. But like the loser he is, the Elusive Man called to say that if I instead captured the tech here, I could use it to upgrade humankind and fight back against the Reapers. Brother, the option was set in stone before I got here. No upgrades means no upgrades. However, as cool as sticking it to the man is, now it's my time to get stuck. Going in with 3 clips of assault rifle ammo and missing every single shot from my grenade launcher, this Reaper human hybrid was toying with me. So much so that it called on backup to deal with me because it would be more amusing. But joke's on you! For some reason, BioWare in its infinite wisdom decided to give me full ammo on death. Awesome! Now I can fight back! We have got to watch that right side because for some reason, these 2 collectors are so fixated with seeing how many deaths it takes me to play in traffic. Oh my god, I said watch that side! Oh, the Reaper removes platforms and takes the collectors down on it? Perfect, this is gonna help tons! Who could have predicted this would end in me getting cornered by my secret admirer? Don't touch my corpse, Harbinger, I will haunt the fuck out of you! Samara Mordin, please just shoot the bad guys! What are you doing? I hope you're ready for an hour and a half of shooting moving glowing spots, dealing with getting overran by bipedal beetles, and hearing the same 3 voice lines from the Harbinger over and over again. That is, until you learn just how ridiculous the sniper is here. If you can get your companions to actually shoot at collectors while you focus on the boss, this will free up a lot of the issues that this fight brings. While using the sniper rifle, just shoot it every chance you get. Adrenaline rush is nice, but there's no point in dragging out this fight any longer than you have to. On the left side of this room is a respawning ammo canister, and as long as you continue to shoot the same weak point, or in some cases just whatever you can see, this should be one long shooting gallery. Just make sure to play it safe and not get too greedy. Stay in the middle to avoid the platforms disappearing, and you should have this in the bag. With an overgrown baby tucked into hell, I got to enjoy the slip and slide for the ages. But whereas Dami Mommy may be a blue wizard, no upgrades means she never got to learn Featherfall. Well, at least Mordin survived. I guess his flame finally got snuffed out. Which just leaves me running for my life, with the Harbinger still trying to seduce me. But the question on everyone's mind is, did I make the final jump? Hell yeah, I did! My child would never leave me hanging like that. Piss off, collectors, I'm out of here. Returning to the ship just in time to FaceTime with the Elusive Man.
Shepard, you're making a habit of costing me more than time and money.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Getting a lot of bullshit on this line.
Don't try my patience.
I know what you are and the price of dealing with you. We do things my way from now on.
You're sure that's what you want? You're taking a hell of a risk, Shepard.
Joker, lose this channel.
With the Normandy spruced up, I added some decorations just in time for Halloween in the form of coffins, and as I stared out the window like some kind of music video, the credits rolled and I had finally beaten Mass Effect 2 without upgrades. Losing 7 of the 12 potential companions, only the best got to survive. We have Grunt, we got Garrus, Legion, Zaid, and everyone's favorites, Miranda. Not only that, but now I didn't have anyone telling me to check my emails over and over again, meaning the only thing left to do was head back to the afterlife on Omega and pour one out for the homies that didn't make it. How the hell did they get so many spinning light fixtures to not collide with each other? This isn't technology, this is witchcraft! In comparison to the first title, I would actually say that this was significantly easier on one hand due to not having to level specific weapon skills, but harder on the other hand because most of the damage output comes in the form of abilities, meaning if you were to pick anything other than soldier for your class, running out of ammo seems far more likely. Before we go, I want to thank all of the patrons on Patreon, the channel members, and everyone who tagged along for the streams. We may have gotten stuck a few times, but sending you guys through your own personal midlife crisis in the form of a companion vote will forever live in my head rent-free, and I cannot thank you enough. To you, the viewer, thank you so much for watching up to this point. I hope you have an amazing day like you deserve. As always, I have been Chris from Crisis Gaming, and I will see you on the next one.